Hey lads, welcome back to What the Ruck, another episode. Unfortunately, we did have some audio issues throughout the episode. We still thought it was a great chat with Andrew Conway, wanted to release it anyway, so hope you can still enjoy.
It takes a bit of time to learn those lessons, and luckily I learned them just in time because I wasn't far away from leaving it all behind me.
Really, yeah?
I remember having a big argument with the manager, it's time I won't say his name, because they wanted us to walk across the city. It was about a 45 or 50 minute walk to out for this team dinner. I was like, there's literal animals running around the city, there's no way. Andrew Conway bit by a line. I said, again, he's looking at me coming in, going, I know who you are, I know what position you play, and there was a coldness to it, and a wildness to the rest of them. But Dave, here we are, another week, another episode, and another game.
Another day, another gift. Yep. Welcome to What the Ruck. Andy, great to have you here.
Thanks, lads. Yeah, great to be here. Former teammate, of course, Quiller here himself. 10 years or that.
Teammate and housemate.
Housemate, yeah. More than ECI there. You might have more stories than that.
Below us, we better rent actually. We're under a blue there, we loaded up. We'll settle that before we get into this.
Andrew, obviously, a lot of people will be tuning into this. We're used to watching you out with the Aviva, out on Thomond Park. How's all been since hanging up the boots? I suppose Killer probably understands what that's like now, but how have you found everything since stepping away from the rugby side of things?
Yes, 2 years now, so it seems like a lifetime ago really playing rugby. It just now, I suppose, mine is slightly different where my last 18 months, nearly 2 years, were rehabbing with 2 games. So it's kind of 4 years since fully fit, operating at a high level for Munster in Ireland. So yeah, no, it's been great. It's been great for the most part. I'd say I like working in numbers. 95% really good, really positive. 5 or 10% pretty tough. And I think most people go through that, in different forms. It's been really busy though. Moved from Limerick to Dublin, sold up in Limerick, built a house in Dublin, 2 young kids, one of them born just after retired, one of them born just after the injury started giving me grief. So He's doing all the work around, so it's not too busy.
Yeah, exactly. So no, life's been busy, but I can't say I miss it a huge amount, to be honest. And I know he was speaking to some of their colleagues that that's not the case. Doesn't mean that I won't ever miss it. There's little pockets of time you miss, running out into Thomond Park before a big European Cup match. The anthems playing for Ireland, those are things that you'll never actually get back. There's nothing that can recreate that feeling there. But all in all, it's been a pretty positive experience, I must say.
I say to Lukey, Andy, the whole time, it's like you're 2 years out now, and it's like I'm still a relatively, unlike you was last year with personal injuries as well, and you probably had time to grieve it for the last few months, and you get to, I think, our age, and you're like I was at the game on Saturday around Thomond Park, cast game, and I was just delighted to be there. Obviously, definitely gutted about the result and being at work today, and a lot of Leinster fans rubbing it in, but it just, if you get that long, I think, out of it, and I think it's good for felt change is all at the right time is good. I don't know about you, but by the sound chatting over the last little bit, it sounds like you were ready. I was definitely ready. You don't be running up and down for the Alexa.
Well, that was the original plan.
Yeah, that was the original plan. Remember we used to 4-0. We'll get into the vision boards now. This is going to be very deep. It's like having Tony Robbins in here now. They do this one. The crack is gone now. This episode. This is very serious, deep. He's going to be looking into your soul, looking. I don't know if there's one there, but we'll get into that. You could bill yourself for this.
Andrew, you've been doing other stuff for a while. Some GAA work also. Yeah. Were you a GAA man at heart originally? Where did that stem from? How did you get into that? No, I can't claim to be a GAA man at heart.
Doesn't his body
at all.
Black Rock. He flew.
Anyway, Limerick was with the first kind of major exposure, really. Obviously, the Dublin couplers were going on over the last decade or so. But then the Limerick hurlers really, even from when I first started then in Munster, there was no talk of hurling really. It wasn't a big thing. Maybe I just wasn't, here close to the ground. But as they started getting success, and it's such an it's a genuine one in the sport that if a good match is on, I'll sit down and watch it. Hurling and MMA and rugby were the only things I'd actually watch. So the Nafina manager, the Nafina club in Dublin and Class 11 reached out. don't know when it was, maybe not too far away from this time last year, maybe in another couple of months. And was moving up to Dublin, and kind of right place, right time, great team, great group of lads. Killer's working with one of the lads.
There's a fella sitting inside me, young lad, Kieran Stacey, and he's mentoring him inside. So he's getting the whole meditation and all this at night, and I basically just go out there and think you're better than everyone else. We're getting conflicting information from both, but somewhere both can be effective. Both can be effective, but sometimes they're finding equilibrium. So he's, I think he's more on your side of the track than like, but the hairdo with him anyway. No, I must say he's been very complimentary. And it's always nice to hear that. Yeah, probably can't say it to you. He says you've been unbelievable in their breath of fresh air, level of professionalism that they wouldn't, they're probably unexposed as much.
Some of them are unbelievably professional though.
Oh, he's
incredible.
He's obsessed inside. It's great to see. We were that obsessed inside. He nearly got the fisty guy we were going. Like honestly though, he is so dedicated. He's his protein shakes ready in the day. His meals set out. He's just so dialed in, and it's great. But brings you back.
Yeah, sure. We wouldn't know how. Like you only know to know, and we would have known nothing but professionalism. All we had to concern ourselves of getting in. Listen, there's lots and lots that happens within a professional career as an athlete, but you don't have to concern yourself with a 9-to-5 job. You don't have to concern yourself with a lot of other things that amateur clubs or amateur inter-county players do. But they like the work they put in. And the days that they'd have, you know what I mean? We'd be getting home after an average day at 4:30. All you're concerned about is putting the dinner on.
That's a long day.
That's a long day.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And we're saying putting the dinner on. We're also getting fed twice inside. And some fellas are taking extras home, definitely. Living an extra meal. Oh, it's going to be long. It's now. I think there's a lot of nuggets to this particular here. We have a lot to discuss.
He's waited a long time. He kept me live.
No, it's just so much, I think, to chat. But anyway, yeah, exactly. You look at that. Like I look at Kieran there, and he's coming in, bursting in, walking to work, doing a full day's work, then out in the evening doing it, which we weren't exposed. I suppose I've become great friends with James Bannigan over the last bit, and he thought like I'd be looking at what they would have done as well. And obviously, we're so interested in Limerick hurling. My brother was big into GA, and as you alluded to there about you being down in Limerick for those, the 5 All-Irelands, you were exposed to that, and you saw what it did to the city downs, which we weren't getting. I know we got the URC in Benny but we weren't blessed with silverware over there, and you saw what it does to the county down there, and now you're immersed inside, obviously. Very successful teams inside, but it's the lift it gives the bases, and yes, it's great.
Yeah, you mentioned the routine of professional rugby, and I suppose the two of you are probably in a great place to chat about that. Is it a bit of a shock to the system when you finish that, you don't have your couple of meals beforehand? And I think you mentioned before that from 17, 18, you have where you are, what you're doing, Monday through Sunday on a sheet of paper, and then all of a sudden it's kind of stop.
Yeah, it definitely is. I don't know. It's not something that I would have said is, takes a whole lot of getting used to for me anyway. I only speak for myself. I think figuring out what you want to do next can be tricky because, thankfully myself and Killer both had pretty long careers. So with that comes a level of, you bought yourselves a small bit of time. It's not, retire on a Friday and have to be somewhere on a Monday. So I think like leveraging that is, only a fortunate few that have gone 10, 12, 13, 14 years have that privilege. And that was really useful for me.
Andrew, we're going to get into obviously a bit about your career here. We're going to chat about the current Irish team and obviously Munster and how they're faring at the moment. But I suppose going back to the start of your professional career, the debut for Leinster back in 2010, was that Michael Checker or? Yeah. What's your earliest memory to that? Do you still remember the Scarlet's first game?
Yes. Well done. Very good. Yeah. During the Six Nations, just out of school. Actually, could have, and definitely should have stayed back a year. Principal was after me 2 reasons. Because I was young, I could play again in schools rugby. And then 2, my leaving cert was abysmal. So there was multiple reasons that I should have stayed back.
IQ wouldn't be there.
EQ though.
EQ, true. IQ. I put a healthy balance of those.
So went into the academy, was tipping away grand, just one of however many, 15. And I think there's a few injuries then in that Six Nations. I was playing under 20 Six Nations at the time, was going well, and then got a shout one day from, I can't remember exactly who, saying, "Hey, come to train the next day. We might use you this weekend." And I was a young 18 as well. I remember that day in particular came on for maybe 15 minutes, and some days, everything just goes right. Set up a try for Johnny Sexton, made a tackle that saved a try. So it gave me and everyone else a false idea of where I was, to be honest with you. Now, I did follow on with a few more decent performances that year, signed a professional contract, but again, it was a false dawn, really. It wasn't a true sense of where I was at, physically, mentally, emotionally, all that stuff. So that was finding out a bit more about myself just to come over the next few years.
Well, we'll find out a lot about yourself here now. You're used to putting fellas on the couch. I'm going to make you step out of your comfort zone here now. No, Andy, though, he was one of these, there's certain names back in school. Remember Luke Fitzgerald, Andrew Conway, Gordon Darcy. There's certain names that were big names coming out of school. And then they go absolutely A1, or they think of Mike Tyson living the flesh. But then he goes on a journey, discovery.
The journey.
Spiritual journey.
That's where me and Killer's path really crossed. I was on my spiritual journey. Whenever I moved into Killer's house, Killer was on a different journey.
I was just constantly in Mike Tyson. Do you want to talk about your early years? Or is it suitable here for the air?
Wait, how early years now? We're talking
Crystal, Blackrock.
Put it this way, whenever someone comes out, I remember I was at a dinner, actually it was just after retired, we had lunch, and this fella, probably my dad's age, come up and goes, "Oh, can I have to chat to you at a few pints now?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, because I remember you from back in Portugal." And I was like, "Oh my God." And he then recounted some sort of story where I was up to things that I shouldn't have been up to. But yeah, I was too young, wanted to kind of be one of the lads by day, train by day, one of the lads by night. And by the time you actually get into it, the run and what a true professional career looked like, the life I was living at the start for that kind of 18, 19, 20, was just it was night and day. You're going out every weekend, if you're not playing on Saturday, you're out Friday, or it's Saturday, as Desi is experiencing now, Dublin nightlife can go to 5, 6 to 7 in the morning, some places. And you're just doing what your mates are doing. And that's, takes a bit of time to learn those lessons. And luckily I learned them just in time, because I wasn't far away from leaving it all behind me.
Really, yeah. And was there a moment to switch with that, or was it kind of a gradual realization in your head?
Do you want to chat? You were going to chat about accent. Do you remember you moved down? I think Munster was a brave move. We often chatted about it, kind of meeting certain individuals. Like you met, you were very close to Felix. He said, I remember you chatting, telling me how much an influence Felix had on you. So you have the floor, Kesh.
Yeah. 100%. I was on paper things were just turning in Leinster, getting more game time. Things were going well. I was still young. I was 21. And there was the Luke Fitzgeralds, Issa, and say Rob Parney. That would have been the kind of back three, I think. Dave Parney was still not around. There was good, healthy competition there. And there was just, I don't know if you were in the room for this, but I nearly went down to Munster straight out of school. So I would have gone.
I was at Thomond Park.
Yeah.
You're a wheel around like the show up, honey.
Yeah.
So that move could have come earlier.
Yeah. So I used to go to a few Munster games when I was in my teenage years with a pal of mine who was from Cork. His family were from Cork. So we'd go over. So they were my experiences. I played rugby for a school I was playing for. And any professional match I went to was a Munster match. It wasn't a Leinster match.
Don't watch me bang a few fellas at the weekend. Of course he was going to be.
And so then I think somehow a bit of, word of that must have filtered down. And, I was going well as a schools player and underage, nationally, provincially. So some way, somehow I found myself going down to Thomond Park on the last day of you came to whatever the version of the URC, Magnus. It would have been finals. It wasn't.
Before that was
it wasn't.
I remember it was towards the end of the season.
It was
day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was before even you'd have a final. It was whoever won the league, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And whoever organised this in all their wisdom brought me into the box with this lunatic and all the academy lads who were well sauced, and I'm walking into a room where there's, even I remember seeing Mank growing the man, he, you know, a bit of a dyed strip in his head. Like he's looking at me coming in, going, I know who you are, I know what position you play, and there was a coldness to it, and a wildness to the rest of them, like a coldness and a wildness that, as a 17-year-old at the time, I was like, nah, no thanks.
I think it was after actually we had won the B-Night Cup. Was it that? It was one of the weekends that we were all, because it was that year, I think Mank and them were, so we were a couple of years older than you. And we were playing, I think, in that B-Night Cup, and I think a team was in there, but after was the coach. And I remember, because we were all out celebrating and cheering on the senior team, and you get a box for the younger lads in there. You know, it's a big day when you're younger. And I think, I still remember you coming in, the big cheers. Such a big name. It was like, oh, who was he signing? Mank was probably quaking in his boots for bus.
So you had heard of Andrew?
Yeah.
I mean, does it filter through schools? Like obviously when you were in Limerick, there's this lad at Blackrock. Like,
actually, Rassie kind of but that's the way it is. He's such a big name up there. It was huge. There's certain names. Andrew was one.
You know, like Luke Fitzgerald had come through two or three years ahead of me. Earlsy has come through at the same age. So they're looking and going, well, these lads went from schools stars to provincial to national to Lions. And, you know, I was the kind of next fella who they had those ideas for. But as we found out, you know, it's one thing being good at a certain level. It's another thing stepping up to out rugby and then, you know, quickly turning that into, you know, quality performances. And I wasn't, you know, that wasn't where I was at the time. I still had a bit of living to do. I had Joe Schmidt at the time who ate the head on me when I told him, and said I was unlikely to play again. And as it happened, things happened. I shouldn't laugh about this, but remember we were playing the game where Paulie kicks.
Tried to take Dave Kearney's head off at the end of it. And when I remember playing that game, it was lashing rain night in Thomond Park. Next minute, the ball speaks, and Paulie's them. He was about 10 meters away. And he shared his. And everyone was like, oh my God. Drop kick to the back of the head. They went to the side commissioner. He got about 3 days suspension. He was back for whatever was the quarter-final or semi-final after, whatever stroke they pulled.
Yeah. So Joe Schmidt wasn't a happy man when you decided to head down to Thomond Park?
Yeah, but to be fair, it wasn't as if I was tearing up crease for Leinster. It was more that I think I'd signed a 1+1 the year before, and with 1+1, it gives the player and the club an ability to either say yes or no to activate year two, the plus year. But it's kind of just, you know, there's a tiny bit of safety there for both, but more often than not, you know, certainly the player doesn't deactivate it.
But any players out there never sign one of them.
Well, I would disagree, because it allowed me to move at the right time. Do you know what I mean?
But the +1, you're still giving the club the control. Unless I think at that age, you obviously work. I'm sure you got a good contract at that age. You're backing yourself.
Yeah, but it wasn't about contracts. It was actually just about flexibility.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? You could argue then, why didn't you just sign a 1? I get that.
At that young age, it would be of the opinion you should do that.
And like, it's another conversation, isn't it? Just the timing of contracts, the length, the duration of contracts, the time, you know, how you time your form, you know, not just in the months coming into the negotiation, but in the kind of 9 months prior to that, the back end of the year before, and the front end of the next year. Like those things, if you do them right 3 or 4 times, or if you do that, if you're lucky enough to do them right with your whole career, it's a huge difference in how your earning capacity versus if you just get unlucky and you've kind of got no options, you've got nothing to fall back on in terms of the form, you're not like progressing through the ladder. There's a lot of luck and timing.
A lot of luck and timing, and you need good advice. Like it. We get Humphreys here stock, but in for the next one for the +1. But the young players, in my opinion, should be, you want to be backing yourself, signing a short contract, 1 year. Obviously, every situation is a little bit different. The idea is get up the money and through performance early on, keep backing yourself. So you can imagine as a young player, your first couple of games and years, you're relatively unknown, then what you were seeded Heineken Cup, and then hopefully international. You want to keep being in the negotiating table as you're going like that. And then when you get to the latter stages, you're trying to set them out of it.
Yeah. So then the official move to Munster then, and a few years after, I suppose, being possibly tempted going down with the academy lads. Did you move straight in with Killer? Was that? Do you remember the news of Andrew coming?
I remember that was it when they Andrew coming, but no, you were in with...
It wouldn't have been great fanfare at the time. genuinely. I moved in with Ian Keatley, Johnny Murphy, and then a year with them or two, I can't remember, maybe two, and then with Killer, and then by the time that was 3 years in, I think, and things were going really well at that stage, and we bought down in Castleconnell. So
Rassie was a lovely house.
So Rassie, yeah, I was first in Radman, then Rassie came, then Johan, and then like Damon Diolande lived in these days. Was his tightest day. It was like 90 houses. So
Must have been good crack those couple of years down there, wasn't it?
Zero crack out there with the Saffers. There's no 7 view.
Yeah, and Johan actually lived there for the whole time he was there. And if you walk outside my front door, my old front door, and you walk straight for 20 meters, you'd walk directly into his house.
It's a bit of a keeping an eye on you, I suppose. Wasn't it?
There was no keeping an eye on me. That was grand. I was on my meditating, read books, but it's not on.
We're probably keeping an eye on Rassie. Yeah, there'd be more. Rassie could have done with him as well at certain stages.
Yeah, and quite a few years you spoke so openly about how much of an impact Rassie had on your career, and you remember him coming in and maybe the change in the guard there. For you, how much of a big impact did he have on you when you were down there?
He's incredible. He was, wasn't he? He was just different level. Yeah. And Jacques, we almost sometimes forget to talk about Jacques. Rassie's so dominant and alpha and creates so many headlines for various reasons, but the two of them together were just this 1-2 punch combo that worked so well. They were exactly what we needed at that point in time. No, we were all absolutely gutted that he was going, but that's kind of the nature of the beast.
You can nearly argue anything gets him needs it.
Yeah.
Like it's the perfect. He's good cop, bad cop. It's like Jock, high energy buzzer, and Rassie can't even use enough adjectives to describe him because he gets his sore out so much of the time. It's just he's a different top right.
Yeah, like I'd still stay in touch with Felix Jones a lot, and I actually met Felix and Jerry in the team hotel before Ireland played South Africa there. And Felix has always said to me this. He says that Rassie's thinking 7-8 moves ahead of anyone he's ever met. And they're very open, like, you're not finding out what's going on behind closed doors, but they just speak of him as if he's God, like, and I think that's
I remember Flack saying to me one day, like, he could actually, and this sounds meant, he could convince people to nearly kill someone, but he gets such quiet and he can nearly convince you it's the right thing to do. It's just his powers of persuasion.
We were both very lucky, Rassie and Jacques, Baz, Joe, who I still like, even though, Joe is, gets the short end of his stick, because of the way 2019 finished. I still have a lot of time for Joe. He's brilliant, a tough man to play under, but in terms of the learnings he got, he's a proper coach, you know what I mean? And then you're throwing Paulie in there, Felix, Jerry, I'm sure I'm forgetting one or two, even Johan and JP. Like we did have look what Johan and JP are doing now with Bath. When you look back, we learned a lot from some incredible people. I still use so much of it today. So
maybe then you go back to Axe, and then you go back in Declan Kidney. So you didn't have Declan now. Funny again. Dumper never gets much of a shout out actually here. If Joe is quite obviously hard, but so Dumper to the young players used to couldn't talk to a dog like it. But it was good. It was hard enough. It was also a warm side night as well. Joe probably did.
Did you need that authority when you're in the academy?
I think every young lad does. I think every young players do. You've got to earn your stripes, and Dumper would let you know you turn your stripe. There'd be groups called out of like the forward. So you could have John Hayes, Mushy Buckley, Flap, Group 1, and by the time you get to Group 57, you're nearly 5 pitches down. Give me Sherry, Kilcoyne, Archer, some Argentinian Escobar, Gonzalo. It's just like you were barely even visible. I don't even think there was a camera on us. But then you slowly work your way up the groups, and you earn his trust and you earn his respect, and then it worked both ways. And then you loved him. I only played 1 year under him, and I loved it towards the end of it.
And when you went out to Munster, obviously you're leaving a very competitive backline of Leinster talent. But not that much of a drop off when you go to Munster, like just Arlsey and Zebo just bring in mind straight away. You're automatically, I suppose, having to be top of your game to get in there and to get any sort of sniff of game time though.
Absolutely. Going down there was no going down for game time. You know what I mean? I was arguably going to at least the same level of competition. Arlsey, Zeebs, Felix was locked in. He's one of those players that was locked into his spot, regardless.
Arlsey and James Downey. No, they
What?
Was Casey there?
Casey and Jimmy were there,
Yeah, he just backline with it.
Yeah, there was a sense of, see,
You came after Dougie.
they came after me, but I didn't know Dougie, whether Dougie knew and or Munster knew. I'm sure they probably did at that stage.
That he was finishing.
I wasn't aware. You know, it wasn't something they told me to be like, Dougie's finishing, you know, come on down. There's a spot. Yeah. And so, yeah, absolutely going down was, and even Ronan O'Mahony was like myself and himself were hard in competition for a few years. There's
Darren Sweet.
Sweets, Luke O'D, who's
Like, there's, I don't know, the Rassie Sweet. He's unbelievable. I leave him under the high ball, you says himself. It's just, and we'd an array of great back trees. Luke O'D, the stay.
yeah, he was brilliant.
But Rassie got the best out of all the knee. He got the best out of it. He got the best out of Rowan. And I think all of us, I'd be giving it.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think you judge a coach on how, it's quite easy to judge it. Not that's probably the wrong way to phrase it, but, you know, when you're a national player, you start your year as a provincial player, then you go to November international, so you're national, provincial, national, provincial, national. By the time you start the summer tour, you've swapped 6 times or 5 times. It tells a lot about the quality of a coach based on how the player is representing the jersey he's in. So you can see great players, you know, playing brilliant rugby internationally, and then 2 weeks later they go back provincially and they look shell of themselves. You know, that's not to totally disown the responsibility of the player, but it tells its story to, you know, how a coach gets the best out of their players. You know, is the carrot or the stick? Is it, you know, how are they motivating them? And of course, we all should have internal motivation, and in an idealistic world, it's just a kind of, you know, blank state of consistency, but that's not the reality. And, you know, like you said there, when a coach gets the best out of, you know, nearly every player you would name check, that's the sign of a great coach. You know, I think even though we didn't win anything under Rassie, we got to semi-final in Europe or final. You know, we were a very, very good team that year. Arguably, not, you know, we got well beaten in those 2 games, but we were a top team. And I couldn't say we were a top team for all my
11 years
years,
down there,
you know.
But we had under, I think, that initial few years we were making semi-finals, and we had another final and we played Glasgow and we lost the name. I think we were going really well, and we had the dip, and then I think Rassie got it back. And I actually saw an interview with him recently, and it was saying about, is there any regrets? And he said the one game he regrets is that Scarlet's game. And because when you think we should, like, on paper or whatever that means, I know nothing, but the form we were in, but they just had their homework done so well.
What did he give any context to what
He just said it was one game he left behind that he feels we should have won. Again, down to performance, we probably didn't.
Oh, we were shocked on it.
Yeah,
we were beat. I don't know what the score was, but we were well beat.
We 3 Steph Evans at a hat trick out of 10 minutes.
Yeah. All down my wing. Me and Pete got mixed up. I was in the backfield, he's on the edge. Yeah, it was
You feel it's going to be one of them days when you're on the pitch, even 10, 15 minutes in.
There were 3 breakaway tries that they were like length of the field. You just look it up on a scrum, and it was just whatever homework they had done for them on a day. They just found the chink in the armour.
We've seen, maybe in recent times under Andy Farrell, that perhaps a fast tracking into the Irish setup. I know Joe McCarthy, Paddy McCarthy more recently, and he's obviously such great talents, but you have to earn your stripe with emerging Ireland teams, Wolfhounds games as well, and then finally in 2017, 6/18, you got your break. Was there ever a time of feeling like, is am I ever going to get a chance at this green jersey, or was it a gradual, like we were saying?
Oh no, 100%. There's so many times. Like, I mean, I was actually living with Desi at the time, and I'll go back to that. So I think I'm the only person to go on 3 emerging Ireland tours.
We were doing Lisi with all the animals broke. I remember we were over, I think we were in America. Was it
the tour? Yeah, probably, yeah.
And I just remember someone showing me a headline going, "Oh, did you see Tbilisi? All the animals running around the city." I was obviously not the joke. All the animals broke out of the zoo. There was tigers and lions or elephants running. Tbilisi, the lights were a couple of more animals running around. That was a good tour to miss now.
Yeah, but then even, you know, I'm sure it's better now.
It was Argentina. Sorry, we were
but they wanted us to remember having a big argument with the manager. It was time I won't say his name, because they wanted us to walk across the city. It was about a 45 or 50-minute walk out for this team dinner. I was like, there's literal animals running around the city. There's no way.
Andrew Conway bit by a lion. I was again, beat the headline.
Yeah. It took a long time. I remember living with Killer. Killer was in Irish squads constantly in match days. And I think whatever year it was, like the rugby that I was playing, or certainly the trajectory that I felt I was on was trending the right way. So, you know, you're starting to perform at a national level, provincially, but what they're waiting on is this fella's 24, maybe 25. This is my debut at 25. So probably from 24 up to the time that I made my debut, you know, you're performing at a really high level, but they're also going back, can you do it again? And can you do it again? And can you do it again? You know, because it's not a 21-year-old who they're going, oh, look at this fella, he's brilliant. You know, we're going to bring him in and we're going to mold him from there. I kind of gone down a different path, so I understand why it was a bit later. But even made my debut against England in like round 5 of Six Nations. They were going for historic Grand Slam and record test consecutive wins, and you know, I wouldn't change a thing. It genuinely wouldn't. And like I'm sure, you know, nearly went. I think the previous tour was South Africa. I was speaking to Joe about that, but I had a knee injury. So yeah, it was kind of played out how it played out. And,
I remember you going on though. Remember that I actually remember you saying, hey, you were just whatever we were saying, that you talk about your spiritual journey now, and you're like, I know we're having a bit of joke on the start, but I remember you actually saying that you were like, no, I'm changed, and you whatever clicked in you or whatever happened in your own, hey, everything just changed. Do you remember you were a bit of o'clock meditating? I know this is sounding crazy and stuff, but you the vision boards, you were, yeah. So how or when or what was it that made you switch?
Yeah, there's rarely, you know, a moment, but if there is a moment, I think this summer, some sort of flight overnight. I remember I was exploring and kind of playing around with the notebook and journaling or whatever. And I remember being on an overnight flight, it was like 4 or 5 hours, and instead of just, you know, watching a movie or sleeping, I just had to know about, and I kind of self-audited the previous 3, 4, 5 years, whatever spent, you know, the guts of that flight, like deeply reflecting on my own input, which equated to the output that it had conspired. And, you know, that was, and then to mention Felix, it connected to this because Felix was so relatable for me in terms of, you know, he'd done he'd gone down and done and did what he did over the previous few years, and I was attempting to do really something along what he did. And I just remember being in awe of the way, remember, like, even talking about Felix, if you ever speak to anyone about Felix, or even around the time then, you know, the respect that he had in the playing group for his commitment, and not just his physical commitment on a Saturday, but his commitment Monday to Friday. That something clicked to me. I was like, I don't think I'll ever attain that level, because it's a like borderline psychotic level, but that's what I'm going to go after, you know, that kind of level. And that, you know, Felix wouldn't have been doing some of the things that I was doing away from the game, in terms of, you know, journaling or, you know, reading and doing meditation and exploring that side of things. But it was that kind of attitude towards, right, well, I'm going to leave it all out here and let's see where it can take me, you know. And that, like, there was a change for sure.
There you go. You can look back there and then you've no regrets. You know, like, obviously, and you look at it, you got that, you know, that flight home. It's just everything happened for a reason. You get that thing. All of a sudden, you're still in the system. Felix has come down. You've got your answer, like the pieces click, you check down clicks, and all of a sudden, then you go on to have this incredible career. Then, and you know, you're, I'm whatever, you know, 30, nearly 40 caps in Ireland. You know, Grand Slams, all this. But you know, it was all worth.
Yeah, definitely all worth it. You know, but it takes a level of perseverance that, you know, just because you made a decision to, you know, to change, you don't. It's not like you wake up the next day and you get different results. You take, I think, if I was to hazard a guess in terms of how long it actually took me to see any level of, you know, upgraded performance or upgraded consistency or upgraded motivation or discipline. You know, maybe the discipline was part of it and that was needed, but like the energy, the performance, the motivation, like it took maybe 6-8 months to actually get any type of feedback on it, other than feeling like, I think this is, you know, I think this is the right way to go. Do you know what I mean? So there's no, if there was this beautiful immediate feedback loop, you know, it'd be really easy to make changes because everyone would just feel the benefit straight away, but it's not. Then, like, you have to work and you have to consistently work for 6, 8, 9, 10 months. And then something will go, oh yeah, no, I'm actually way more consistent now, where I can see, you start to see the benefit to it, but it takes a while.
We'll take your language. You enjoy the fruits of your labor, but like, if to go inward to get that outward performance eventually, and the answer lies within.
And then every I'd room with Zeeves, before games, and like he
was always outward. He never would inward that day before.
His answers, and I'd be so jealous of him. Just like, I'd love to just be so carefree, and he'd go out and perform, particularly in the big days, he'd go out and perform. But I think, in what I'm doing now, everyone is so different. The internal, external motivators, the level of pressure or risk that's connected to certain games that get some people and that's why people, in my opinion, rise to the challenge as they progress from from provincial to international. Some people really struggle with that extra layer of risk and pressure, whereas others actually grow from that. But again, it's just trying to copy or do someone else's version of it isn't going to be isn't going to give you the holistic understanding of what you need and everything.
But you mentioned it was 8 to 9 months before you saw a difference. What were those differences? Is it the mindset going out onto the pitch and being like I'm way better at this than my level type thing? Or what were those differences, if you can even break them down to a couple of things? Because I know it must be a wide array of them.
Yeah, it's a while back now. I suppose maybe just consistency of performance, to really simplify it. Because everyone playing for Munster or Leinster, they're all talented. So everyone is there because they have a certain level of ability. So, it's not like you're going to play well sometimes, regardless of what your kind of system is, your framework, your process is. The trick is to play well all the time, and then maybe that's slightly unrealistic. The trick is to play well 9 out of 10 times, that you don't go below. And when you're watching on, and this is what maybe your experience of it, Desi, I'm not sure, but when you're watching really good players play rugby, because it's the sport we know, when you see guys producing an 8 out of 10 one week, and then down to a 5 or a 6, and then maybe back up to a 7, and then a 9, and then a 4, that, like, for me, there's a gap in their process, and maybe I'm that bit more sensitive to what needed to be done to give me the keys to perform. But that for me was that revealed itself after maybe 8 or 9 months, that to be consistent, you have to be consistent. It's not rocket science, but it takes what it takes on a daily basis.
That's it, yeah. It's like, even you get the performance on a Saturday through, and it's a cliche, but it is kind of what you all do in the week, but it's the weeks and the months and the years. Like, you'd often find, I found anyway, big ball carriers or big hitters or something like that, they train harder in the gym probably than most people, because they need to be stronger, they need to be more powerful, they need to be, and it's like, I remember I used to take Jim unbelievably serious. I know what he'd be out before sessions, visualizing catching high balls and stuff, but I knew that was, I knew what I needed. So I would do an extra lift on a Monday. Every Monday I'd make sure I did it, but I knew what I needed to do to perform at the weekend. My skill set is different than his skill set, or my job was different than his. And then I love hearing that, like, the different, it just shows you how many different personality types make up the team. Like, you have a set of Zebra, and you'll even say that he's just naturally ridiculously talented. He get up early and just hit over the ball at 65, just see darts, nail the darts, whatever. But then other working hard and going inward like that is an insane, that's real talent as well. That's like to work hard and be disciplined and train consistently every day, eat right every day, do everything that you probably should do right. That is probably the biggest talent.
Yeah. No, that, and I suppose the thing that I'm definitely minding now is that process of making real changes to my personality as well, not just to my ability to perform as an athlete. I think that's been really helpful retiring, because I've almost had one near on full identity shift and work my way through that as a 21, 22, 23-year-old. And now you get into, another version of it where a professional sporting career ends and you're into a new set of challenges. But I kind of already done that in a way. It's different, but I have made those changes decade plus ago that I know what it feels like to make changes, you know.
You know, I think that's absolutely fascinating, and I think probably the amount of athletes that could have been and rugby players are probably at your stage now that could hear that and really, you know, see that there's another way to maybe another avenue to go down as well. I think it's such an untravelled road for many in the rugby sphere at the moment.
Well, yeah, I think the danger is as well, though, you know, that, you know, you go black and white and it was, you know, all bad, free, you know, making a few changes and it was all great. That it's not the reality. You know what I mean? There's
we do create our own reality, and reality is pretty good. You don't look this good in the 7 conference, you know, get up at 6:30 and lift the weights every day. Consistency.
I was on to my mum earlier on today and I hadn't mentioned your name. She goes, I need to tell you something. I said, what? She goes, I see Zayda this morning walking up and down the road in Bulls Bridge. You look so trim.
There we go. 6 every day, the proof's in the pudding. But here, we'll get on to, I know you've transitioned now, we've talked about it, but do you want to tell us what you're doing now, Cash? Your new business, very exciting. And even that, probably would you have had another ball scope from your own thing if you hadn't gone through this journey through rugby, discovered who you were, became, you know, man you knew you had in you and became now, and having to go out on your own and, you know, start something fresh. Do you want to tell us about that? Talk us. How do we sign up? Myself and Luke, we had a 2 for 1 it. I'll go in and do the talks for you.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right what you said there. I don't think, you know, that all that played its part in the decision making that came then. And I suppose, like, you know, I'm sure speaking to you, you know, particularly maybe in the last few years where I was involved, and, you know, the idea of the end being near is more of a reality. You know, when it does end and you're going, right, well, what am I actually going to do? You know, there's a lot, like thankfully there's, you know, there's different avenues, particularly in this day and age now. There's, you know, we've built up, let's say, a network of people. We've got great people around us. We've got great resources of the people we've worked with in rugby, but also we've been exposed to at rugby. So you've no shortage of people who are willing and able to meet you for a coffee to help you in the direction you want to go. So like having conversations over that first few 6 months was helpful. And again, like talking to the likes of Paulie, talking to the likes of Jerry Flannery, telling, you know, at times going, just be patient. At other times, you know, going, oh yeah, you know, running ideas by them and being able to actually, you know, leverage the relationship that's been there for a period of time. You know, that those relationships are incredibly important. But ultimately, it comes down to the individual. You know, no one's going to hold your hand. No one's going to tell you. No one's going to go out and get you a job, or no one's going to create something for you. You got to go out and do it yourself. And like the performance world, or whatever way you want to verbalize it, like that is something that, you know, I got to change the trajectory of my career, engaging and thinking about things in a different way. I suppose that's probably the key thing. Thinking about things in a different way, challenging preconceived ideas and preconceived notions. So, you know, thinking can I do something that I like doing regardless? And I'd be more than happy to have, you know, conversations about this over, you know, and so the thing is I don't tend to think in like 30-year blocks or 20-year blocks. I'm like, right, let's split it, let's chunk it down into 10 years. What would I like to do for the next 10 years? Okay. Let's explore this. How do you even go about doing this? Do you want to work with a team? Do you want to work with individuals? So it's like, right, I think I want to start with individuals because I've been in a team environment for 10 and 13 years, whatever it was. And then you start looking online, seeing, well, who does something like this out there? Who does it? Is everyone just connected to a team, or are there people doing it for individuals? And after a bit of research, you go, right, I'm going to have a crack off this, see what happens. Like, I think I can get really good at it. I think I'm already pretty good at it. And it crucially doesn't actually feel like work. I suppose that is, you know, that is what I'm trying to achieve, because if it doesn't feel like work for me, with the self-awareness I have about myself, I can get really good at it. But if it feels like it's a chore and it's a dredge, there's a high chance that I'm not going to be good, and I'll either give up on it, or it will be so energy consuming that I just felt like, you know, it won't be worth it to me. So yeah, took a chance and created 5 Expo, and, you know, knew there was going to be a bit of work to do with athletes. Question was it going to be transferable to people in the corporate world? which it definitely has been. And
Well, you're talking the man in the corporate world now, and I give you the, but it's Irish people are great at talking themselves down. I know you played a long career with Munster in Ireland. You have so much laughter inside. You straight away, you already have discipline, resilience, nailed up more than anyone can imagine. But and I would say to players that are going to retire now or they're looking at, talk to as many people as you can. There's so many people out there that want to help. There's so much admiration to what you've gone through with the country, with your country, with your province, that want to help you. But you can only help someone who wants to help themselves. So it's people, you got to go out, find out what you want to do, try to put a plan in place. And then there's so much goodwill out there, of people that know people, especially in the network we're in, I suppose. And we're so blessed, fortunate. I think what you're doing is unbelievably exciting. I thought about something like that myself.
Yeah, I already talked to you.
You remember we chatted about it, and then you robbed my idea, and now you're making loads of money, and you're after buying a new nice house and Dundrum and drive the big BMW X5. So it's great. I love seeing people do well. Just hang around with me and you do well. Listen to me and you will do fucking well in that.
There's the intro for that last. But anyway, yeah. Andrew, I'd love to bring you back to a little bit more of the Irish career. And you mentioned the Emerging Ireland tour to Tbilisi and tours, and it got me thinking about what tours like that must be like. Was your first one after the debut games against Japan? Would you have been done tour as well? Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are the tours like that like? Because obviously the summer test maybe not as seen as important over here at the All for Internationals, and obviously not the Six Nations as well, but must be a great experience as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like we went to America, stayed in New Jersey. Was it?
Yeah,
New Jersey first.
You're flying over. You're flying business class over. You're getting to see the world over with your friends. They're the best tours. You look back now. That's the thing. You look back.
Were you on that first flight over? I remember there was 2 flights. Usually when you're traveling as a big group, there's like flight 1 and flight 2. So good group of players were on the first flight, landed into New York, New Jersey early enough during the day. So staying in New Jersey, you just jump on one of those little ferries and you're in Manhattan. So of course we're like, right, the coaches aren't here. We've nothing on for the rest of the day. I think the next day was going to be very light anyway. So we ended up going out for a few drinks. And
the second night, I think I went in and met you.
Yeah.
I made it up with the wine, the business there, another wine place.
Yeah. So we get back to the hotel, and you're conscious that you don't want to run into the wrong person. And so lift opens, and the only person in the lift is Joe, and he just arrived. There's about 6 of us on the drink, we're in the lift, and it pings on the floor before if we're going up to the 15th floor, it pings on the 10th, and it's Joe, and everyone gets out except for me.
Just you and Joe?
I just panicked. Everyone just did the right thing, and I just stayed there. Oh man, I'll never forget it. Like
I'll tell you a funny one. I haven't done this. We went in 2016. We played South Africa on a tour, 3-fest tour. I played in the first game or second game, I think. But the last game of the tour, I wasn't selected. So I was playing, and then lads who weren't selected came in. We were staying in the middle of Cape Town. Out anyway at odd hours in the night. I got home with ultimate land, I'd say about 6:30 in the morning. We had a big night out. There was a load of our lads that weren't playing, but you were up particularly late. And get into the lobby inside, about 30 degrees east South Africa. Now you're coming in bright as anything. You're just keeping the head down, walking through. Again, elevator opens. Who walked past me? Joe. Up early, killer. Yeah, I just wanted to go and go paper. Walked in, hit the O. Didn't have a clue. I kept it. Didn't panic. Never panic.
Ari, very good.
Just control. Yeah. Up early.
Well, did the opposite of you, Andrew?
The
Control.
exact.
That's their personality. The police had it.
And like maybe 4 or 5 drinks, nothing major. But yeah, Desi has an ability to get himself out of jail, which is both a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. Which I do great. Defend how you frame life, guys. I just do blessing.
He came, give you a story on him. So he went down to Kinsale Sevens one year, or many years, but 1 year in particular. And Snapchat and all these things are you now can see what people are doing, in the moment pretty much. So we come in on a Monday morning and all the chat and change was, look at this video, killer in Kinsale Sevens, but the timestamp on is like 3 hours ago. Like 5:50 or something. And this is 8 o'clock in the morning. So we know he's in Kinsale on one 3 hours earlier. And anyways, we're all waiting, like absolutely couldn't be more excited. Hoping he's presuming he's going to turn up, but he kind of has to turn up. He comes in anyway.
Never not turned up.
He comes in, well, have you not?
Don't think so. I don't think I ever missed.
Anyway, don't mind that.
Yeah.
He comes in and
Just for the record,
he actually physically can't talk. Like he's not able to talk. You know,
he gives yours, sir. I'll give mine.
he keeps going. And like with Killer, when he's to a certain point, the features of his face can droop a bit more than usual.
Strobe legs and doos. Oh man, it was. I tell you, you got it. So all right. So Rassie was coach at the time. The extra story. Oh, no, it is. No, you're right. You're right. It is. You're right. But I'll give you a backtrack. So I had paid every game under Rassie that year. Remember, I looked at tour. My second year when being on the URC team of the year. So I got Rassie was like, you have to get a weekend off, and it was Treviso or the game before, and he goes, which one? And the lad had just texted that they were going to pick and say the 7 and Treviso weekend. He said, do you want this one off? And I was like, oh, here we go. I would love this weekend off. Perfect. So, because you're only with certain games, you have to be rested from one. I was like, ideal. Down anyway, it's Kinsale Sevens and break crack.
Friday night.
Yeah, so down Friday. No, so down Saturday morning.
Oh, yeah, you do?
I think down Saturday. Oh, probably on Thursday. No, down Friday. No, it was 2 nights. Saturday. Plan was down Saturday. Enjoy yourselves. Back up for Sunday, ready to go Monday. Now on Saturday, we practice and saying great crack. Sunday, then again, the weather was unbelievable down here. It was better crack again. And I was living with Francis Ahili at the time. That was another time. So we went down anyway to Sunday, and I was like, it was Francis Healy. So I was living with Francis, and Sunday anyway, it was great crack. I go on, I was like, gee, chance then down here, Francis, come down and collect me. So he drives down around 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening to collect me. And I was refused to go, basically. I'd be like, no, I'll be grand. I'll get home, going to the lads. Then you start to sober a little bit of drum. Whatever, 3 or 4 in the morning. I went back to one of the lads' house, stayed there, and I'd ordered with taxi to collect me at 6. And the plan was drive me straight home. I'll get 2 or 3 hours sleep, go home. Monday was always very light. It was kind of a walkthrough under Rassie, and I was.
You already the time's done at all this. You know what I mean? So the taxi ordered at 6. We're in the dressing room at 8, watching the clip.
No, I think because this is what happened. So went straight home into a cold shower in
very professional.
Yeah.
Cold shower.
Better than any ice bath, man. Tried to be anyway. I was like, perfect crime. So I thought, went in. Little did I know the lads had seen these videos on Snapchat. But also I didn't know that I was doing a change. And I was sitting beside Mark Dizzup. On the Saturday, I got a big one of these henna tattoos. A big massive one, the left side of my back. Just stupid thing. Anyway, take off my top. Forgot about it. She just turned me around like that in front of the neighbor. And they were just piping. And then I was like, I actually can't tonight. I just have to do the cat here. And I didn't know my voice either to talk. But that was the one and only time.
Jeez, that's great there, yeah. Good face down to Kinsale Sevens.
Yeah. I actually did an unbelievable event down there. They brilliant that lot.
You were the unofficial ambassador there.
I was
genuinely.
No, I did it for him for a while, yeah. But they run an unbelievable event down there. It's like it's all Southern teams down there. It's normally the weather's unreal down there. And we've been blessed a lot of the years. We've either haven't had a game or it's a week off or something. You know, it just falls that time of the year. And it's just a big great rugby people down there. Loads of crack. Loads of all sorts down there. So it's good. Would highly recommend. If you're looking to me open again this year now, I have no excuse. I'll definitely be down there.
Would there be a bollocking though if that was hot by Rassie?
Well, I think with Rassie is there would be a bollocking if you didn't shut up. I knew I did that. And look, I've been at that was probably the first time I've ever done a Sunday night. But anyway, I knew I had to go up and train hard and get out Monday, get right weekend. Like certain things in your life, none of us are perfect, close enough. You gotta, you've done the ground. You gotta do the time here. You gotta train hard, make sure the fear gets you your high speed meters pretty higher than ever. I've probably hit bench records and psychs. If you don't, people are watching. The added level of fear is always good. The pressure.
You must have had a good crew down there though. It seemed like in terms of a group of good crack, you had a very good generation for those years at Munster.
Unbelievable.
We did have a great generation, didn't we?
We're an unbelievable generation.
And there's guys who, you know, the likes of Nick Sherry, Dave Foley, Duncan Casey, you know, guys who would have been this centre that, who retired a good bit earlier for different reasons, moved off to different clubs, tired to be injury or whatever. Guys like that who were just, you know, they make dressing rooms. Johnny Murphy would be another one.
Like you can go back, there's so many, like James Downing, like you can actually keep going back. Like BJ Bota was hilarious. Yeah, Donfitz, I just used to find probably we've got had funny stories here about BJ. He's really OCD like. So he couldn't stand people. Like he wouldn't shake your hand. He'd be constantly. He was on the hand sign of his 8 years for it. It was ever a mention of club. So he had a thing that he couldn't. If he was going in to me and Vian, you'd get a lift with him down to Cork. This is going back now years, 2011, 2012, and so the road was me, him, and Vian going down in the car. But he would have to. He'd get into the car. He's all these like rituals that he do. Puts on the belt, everyone has to put on their belt, has to get out or open the boot and close it and put it in again to go. So myself and Vian at this cap anyway. She gets in anyway with myself and Vian, all buckled up. He's right, goes, gets out of the boot, opens it, pretends he's looking for something, slams it again, back in, ready to go. And Vian goes, 2 seconds, I'm after getting my bottle of water in the car. And Peter says, yeah, okay, go. So he goes out, gets the water in. BJ picking up his get this out in the boot. So it gets up again, in again, the boot. We're just go again. I go, he's my phone in the boot. Get out again. And then Vian fed it again. And he copped it then that we knew. He didn't want to admit it. But he was like, he was like, stop. And he ended up doing it again and he'd lock the doors. He wouldn't let us out and just drove off. It's always all characters would be mad. Yeah.
Just with characters, yeah. We did. Like, great lads. And dressing rooms changed drastically over a period of time. This is the nature of it. But yeah, there was some brilliant people there. Not just great rugby players, good rugby players as well, but great people who, you know, you still be good pals with. Obviously, life, different things are happening. People live in different locations, kids and everything. But there's some of those lads who, you know, wouldn't be the, you know, highlight names that will, you know, that will get talked about on a platform like this, but they make a great, you know, the experience of a squad over a long period of time, I think.
100%.
Absolutely. Well, you have you here as well.
Get as much out of it as you want. We have.
One of the areas that Ireland are perhaps struggling dead boys is that back three for the Six Nations. We see backhands the ruled out. Jamie Osborne likely to miss it. I know Hugo Keenan won't have a lot of game time before coming back in.
Tommy O'Brien did shit out of Ferry out again now with the injury this weekend. Tommy O'Brien as well. Yeah. He was so like that as a winger, isn't he? Brilliant. He's been blessed. Cursed injuries for you're a lot more qualified to talk about these. JJ Kenny as well. It was your back three predictions or who you like seeing at the moment. What you think the state of Irish rugby is back three wise at the moment? Yeah, I'll hand it over to
Total transparency. I don't watch. You know, I can't say I sit down and watch all the provinces play on a weekly basis. Saw a handful of minutes of Leinster on a phone the other day. Couldn't watch the Munster match live, so naturally you're kind of paused. Kids are getting bathed and going to bed, so you come down and you're kind of flicking through just to pause, but you miss a bit. But to answer your question, factory, as I totally agree. I think Tommy O'Brien's been wonderful. Like he's
Andrew Conway by Toulon tried breaking up. He's given that. He's fucking great from that enough. Yeah. So he's
man. You know, again,
similar mold.
Well, he got that wide in on the poaches. I wasn't in the poaches. Again, he's got that over.
But he's that wildness in him, isn't he? And that JJ Kenny as well is like, you know, obviously Tommy's more down the line and JJ's younger, but there is it for it.
What I will say is I've seen Ulster play a handful of times. I think Jacob Stockdale is going brilliant. Yeah, you know, he really is, and not just the chip over the top or, you know, a big hand up. Like he's defensively putting in shots. Every time he gets the ball, he beats 2 or 3 players. He looks strong, bit fast,
terrible nerve bounce.
Terrible, yeah, sure. So you can't have it all. Well, and I'd be delighted to see him get a run again. I know Hugo, if fit, will. I've heard Andy Farrell say this multiple times. The best players don't need a run of games to be back at their best. They're mentally strong enough.
The France is Hugo. He's a bloody brother. But they're saying,
So I'd love to see Jacob get a shot. And then again, just depends on who's fit and who's not. But what I've seen in that La Rochelle match was it, JJ Kenny looked pretty good.
JJ has been brilliant all year. Yeah. And to get back to the form, is it 2018?
18, yeah, done both 7 or 8 tries.
And think about how hard it's been for him. He was the star. You know, if years fell right, he potentially have been on 2 Lions tours already. They've not fallen right, so he's been on none. James Lowe then has come in, you know, a like for like replacement and has just dominated the jersey. Jacob's been either injured or when he's been fit, he's been in camp and just having to be the travelling reserve, get a game here, like, you know, 1 or 2 games a year max. Like, so for him to stay in the fight is something as an onlooker now, I'd have a lot of admiration for.
100%. Yeah. And it's great to see him do it for a while.
Will there be a bit of a lack of a Munster presence compared to previous years? Do you think? Obviously, we're just off the weekend of the Munster's exit of the Champions Cup. Like I said, you briefly watched there, but Killer, you were different at the Thomond Park.
I'm living a different life in the corporate world down there now. So of course, I was down in Thomond Park. My father and John Paul Construction were having me down there for the 3-course meal before, but unfortunately, it's probably where the night, the good vibe ended. It was just, it was patches. They were good, you know. It's just consistency again. Yeah, and you know, mood around was very somber. You know, out of such early stages. I know they're playing Exeter now in the Challenge Cup. Very frustrating. They'll say they'll be very. I said it to one of the lads in work today. He was asking a big Munster fan inside, and he's just saying, "How are you the weekend? What you think?" And going into face that now Monday review wouldn't be easy, you know, after getting knocked out of Euro. And then there's I thought Brian Gleeson's man again. I thought he was excellent. Eddie Dogbu, I thought we chatted about him earlier. I thought he's getting strength. I'd love to keep playing him. I'd be saying play more minutes. I think big man like that, more minutes than Jay there. I would start him. But look, Kimani made a massive impact. I think it's time though now. He needs to be starting. Like, why are you holding backwards? No, you get better. Cash, you know better than anyone. Like playing week in, week out. There's something in that as it builds resilience as well in the body. You get momentum. You get, you know, Simon Sadley's young. You know,
I'd say with someone like Eddie though, he's had such a up and down injury history that, you know, I'm sure they're getting spoken to from the IRFU to say you guys need to manage this fella because he's 100% in there. Without any knowledge, I couldn't see any way that he's not, you know, front and centre in their thoughts for 2027 World Cup. But to give him a chance to have enough experience to be, you know, front of the queue there, he has to be managed.
He has to be blooded as well. Yeah, sometimes I'm right in sports science. Play it. He's 130 kilos, young man. Play it.
Is it the same for Ruan Green and, you know, Brian Gleeson you mentioned there as well? Because so depth and Alec Dillon, you know, John Hodnett, Jack Dunhu's playing very well.
Beck and them brilliant. The 2 lads are both injured now, John and Alex. Just a very aggravation at Cinder's Moss. I think it'll be fine. It's not a big deal. But John John will be back very short. The rumors playing this week. He's going much for the hand, I think. But whatever way it fractured, I don't think it's a serious dribble getting back early. So look, there's strength in that, but I think if they want to be, if they want to be looking at Eddie for World Cup, you've got to play him in fashion. He needs to be seen. You know, same with Brian probably needs money. If they're looking at Brian for World Cup, are you going to have to bring him in?
Well, I'd imagine so. I suppose the Munster, you know, again, coming from not watching it as, you know, not seeing every minute of all the action and being really, really, really educated on the, you know, the current affairs. I think, you know, the reality is that, you know, you got the couple of young boys that we're talking about here, Ryan and Eddie in particular, who I think they're international. You know, when you look at them, you know, when you train with them after 10 minutes, they're international caliber. I think there's a drop then, to be honest. Like, that's my honest.
There's a few. Ruan Quinn, I think, is another lad that has that potential. He's 120 kilos. He's hard. He hits hard. He's that power athlete. I get what you're saying, though. Look, I know, again, he hasn't played enough. No, you know, there's other lads there ahead of him at the moment. But there is lads, but there's definitely a big drop off in other positions and stuff that I suppose they're well aware of that in ways. Go on, sorry, you're
no solution, but just I think the cold hard facts are, if you look at a squad that, you know, even, you know, a squad that were before us, you know, the Munster squad, like they were littered with starting internationals, littered with starting Lions, and they got 2 Heineken Cups for their work. Potentially could have got more.
They made up the nucleus of the Grand Slam team that won it as well.
7 of 8 forward starters, Rod, Stringer, etc. Then the generation that myself and yourself came through, for the most part, you're looking at, 5 or 6 always in the international 23, if not more. Sorry, probably wrong. It's 7 or 8.
And you're right. Remember, it started off, we were on 11, I think, and in the wider spot, but it was getting low. And it seems to have, if you actually look, I'd love to see it on my board here. I'm going to get that up going for a graph. But the trajectory of, I remember when I first, my first Irish Scotland, it was 2012, and it was huge numbers there, 15
had a job, and I first half was against, as we said, England in the last game of Six Nations. So I have a picture with the full Munster representation on the pitch after the game, and I would say there's 9 of us, I think.
And that's in
a big game. That's in the...
That's a big, but it just seems to, as it was the years of Banana side, it was getting lower and lower, and now, you're...
But so sorry. So my point is that, when they had the bulk of the national team, the Munster contingent, they're getting Grand Slams, and they're also getting Heineken Cups eventually. Our generation didn't have that same bulk as out-and-out starters and out-and-out Lions, but we, in my opinion, were playing in and around to the level we were at, often in Heineken Cup semi-finals, finals in the RK. And now, there is a connection to it, and there's no way in hell Andy Farrell is looking at anything with blue tinted glasses on. He wants. There's no person who wants their team to win more than the head coach, because ultimately it's their job. Players are going to come and go. It's going to be formed, but ultimately the buck stops with the head coach. So, and from being lucky enough to work under him, he's picking the best players he thinks are going to give him the chance to win the game that's coming up, and also managing the kind of medium to long term as well. So I just don't buy, the hardship or the the kind of what was us thing. I think that you gotta be winning, and we're being honest, you gotta be beating the big English teams, you gotta be beating the big French teams relatively consistently, because that's the closest thing you get to international test match rugby. And if you're not doing that,
what was the most ruthless, most fair coach you could ever get? He'll make very hard, difficult decisions. No matter, he'll look you straight in the eyes as he shoots you in the head, but he'll do it for the right reason, when we both been dropped and both been picked by a minute. At the time, we both probably fight our faces. I shouldn't have been dropped. I shouldn't have been picked. But if you dive into it, there's a reason, and it's the right reason. I'm not going to say there, I made one player there recently and he was just saying, he gave him a reason and he doesn't think that's it. And I just listened to him and said, no, that is it. It doesn't bullshit. That is the reason. That 100% is exactly what he's thinking. He's not trying to spare your feeling, because he's doing you the honest and the service of giving it to you straight, because that's all you can do as a coach. You can be respectful the way you do it, but you can also, you've got to let them know why you're not picking them and you're picking someone else. That's all they have in that conversation.
I think it's well documented in Munster, and I suppose we had Conor Murray on a few weeks ago as well, and spoke about some of the recruitments, and perhaps recruitment isn't what it once was. You mentioned the Galacticos of such, and the Howlets, and maybe the difference there is now here of bringing people in. And do you think that recruitment from Munster needs to be a bit stronger to get back where fans and the wider rugby community probably feel it should be?
I thought, obviously it could be done better. But listen, I'm so unlucky with Orgy Snyder. You know what I mean? That was really, really unfortunate.
If you look, like Alex Sangsfield has been brilliant. He's an enemy. Like you look at them in Landlead, RG Simon, they've got big signs. Like you did, and then you go back to obviously Casey and
Tom Farrell last year, and on this year obviously Dan Kelly, who I'm a big fan of, and I'm watching him.
There's other players, and you can obviously say it like it hasn't gone as well. But I think every club probably now look, we've had one or two obviously, but
is the bigger issue though not
homegrown?
Exactly. That's the elephant in the room, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Just the homegrown players. You can. There's a finite budget there. There's obviously the complication of the IRFU and NIQs, position specific, all that stuff. So there's lots and lots of complication. ultimately there's not enough homegrown players coming through the systems. All European knockout quality. That is the absolute.
Trying on now is another big loss. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Munster, when they do well, they would be, you know, lummox of a lot who's, as he says, does his best work without the ball. I don't think it's the ball. If it rocks them all to their head all day and scrum and do nothing else. And that is invaluable. You know,
And none of this is through lack of effort, by the way. You know, they're all, you know, thinking down there, how can they, you know, create something that resembles Leinster's school system and all that. You can't copy it because it just don't have the numbers or the kind of schools, systems, infrastructure, whatever it is. So you have to think outside the box. This isn't through anyone, you know, not trying, they're not trying or not wanting. It's just really like you look at, you know, in many ways you compare Munster to Man United. You know, sport is cyclical. You know, Leinster are going through a really good run. They've obviously not got the trophies, particularly European trophies, that would probably represent how good they've been. But ultimately, they don't have them. Whereas Munster, you know, we're going back now. We're nearly 20 years since the last time we won the European Cup, and that is what the province judges itself on. You know, you were seeing 2023 great, but ultimately the province and the fan base connect to the European Cup in a way that very other, maybe Toulouse.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else is connected to that. And that's just not the reality anymore. It's just not the reality. But 20 years seems like, you know, 2 lifetimes ago. But also, if you got a Thomond Park with 26,000 people, half of them were probably in the Millennium Stadium watching it. So like it's next to impossible to disconnect to the expectation of that standard. But the reality is the cold hard truth is that that's not in the realms of reality for the next short to medium term.
But then you look at it, right? I was down there Saturday, and you were saying that everyone, the stadium was hopping down there. Fans, you will never get diehard fans. Like the atmosphere down, and people talk to me sometimes that, you know, sometimes there can be a bit dated Ireland game. It's like, it can be quite corporate. Look, that's just an edge of the beast. They're very expensive tickets. It's hard to get up there. So the atmosphere was insane down there. I was at lunch, so well run. They had Freddie Pucciarello in with Quinny. Everyone was loving it. It was brilliant. So the on-field stuff, the off-field stuff, they're getting it, and they care so much. They're trying to get all the right signings. They're trying, I know. But as you said, the budget constraint. But then the overall thing, it's the homegrown players. Then you look, right, break it down. Look at the population in Dublin. Look at I remember say I was playing Bowes, I always say back to the 20s, right? You just say that. All of a sudden, recession hit. All the good jobs were in Dublin for a long period of time. So as they're finishing college here, 22, and they're, you know, maybe they're not fully in an academy yet, but they're about to pen A. They're going up to Dublin to get jobs. They're playing with Mary's, Lansdowne. So these clubs have become huge now. I was up in Beckett there recently, and the numbers they had, like there's no Limerick club can compete with that at the moment. You know, the Limerick clubs are massively struggling because of numbers of, you know, and it could can sound a little bit of job market, even that, and population. It's just, there's a lot of Dublin has going for it. You know, they've called the private schools up here. There's no private schools, and you've won Glenstal a little bit out. There's no private rugby playing school in Limerick. So they're public schools. You're competing with hurling, which has done incredibly well over the last number of years. Lads grow up to see they want to be winning, like you said, alluded to there, but seeing Limerick going on that brilliant journey. Young lads now that are going to school, they want to be a part of that. People, when I grew up, I was, you know, 6 and 08, I was over in Cardiff. I wanted to be Marcus Horn. You know, you want to be who your heroes are at that time, who's winning. And unfortunately, it can nearly be, it's a slippery slope, even at club level. Like you always went down, you know, they were 1A, now they 1B, and now they're slipping down the divisions. And it's hard once you get down there, but it can be nearly the same at provincial, because if you're not producing the players at club level and getting down there, so you need to get, it's tough. It's not one thing. There's a combination of things, and they're probably against us, and that probably has Dublin advantage from up here. There's definitely, you know, private schools, population, and the rugby playing schools, the academies down there. You know, you probably compete with other sports more, and don't have maybe as many numbers, and that subsequently feeds into the academy. Feeds into the URC team, not producing enough players coming through, the Lighting Cup team, up to the Ireland team, performance weekend, and it's all kind of linked, trying to get the picks, which they are trying to do, but tough.
It is tough. Yeah. And again, there's no one trying harder than the brains trust in the building. There's no doubt if there is such effort, such thought, and everything that can possibly be done. Of course, they can do things better. But who am I to say what that is? I'm not boots on the ground there. Everyone's got an opinion. I don't actually have an opinion on it. Genuinely on what they could do better. You only really understand the inner workings when you're in the building, in the right meetings. But I just think it's the nature of the time we're in. Someone like, talking about the Irish squad, you're going to have Ty, obviously, Jack, and Craig most likely. Is there anyone else going to be in there? I don't know.
Brian maybe.
Who?
Brian maybe.
Brian and Eddie. Brian and Eddie could well be. Like, shocked Eddie's not in. Brian could be in, as he was. Those were development for. Yeah, so you got those lads. But like the three that I mentioned are.
With Milner maybe with the injuries in there now. Jeff Boyle did very well as well the weekend. He'd been in the initial squad, so I like to look at him really when he first started on towards the end of last year. And he'd been a little bit unlucky with timing of his injuries. But look, yeah, I know it's going to be very limited.
Yeah, and it just is what it is at the moment. I think they're more realistic. They still have a great performance against Toulon. Munster will always have that, but it goes back to what we spoke about a bit at the start. It's like, to be consistent, you have to be consistent.
Just before we end, and we're going to end on something a little bit lighthearted. A few weeks ago, I got Dave to pick his dream pack he played with. We did the same with Jordy Murphy, but we're going to switch up a bit and ask you to make your dream backline of players you played with. There's some serious names from Leinster, from Ireland, from Munster. We're going to give you the tough job of an hour and a half. Okay. We might start off from half.
Would be the obvious place to start with.
I think so.
Okay. So I played with.
No excuses how I would drop from the other fella.
No. I've got to go to the other name. Murray, Sexton, Delaney, Brandon Driscoll. Sinatsewa. Earl Z. I really don't want to say Zebo. I'll give it to Zebo. Zebo at his best was a world class player. He really was. So yeah, that's it. If I see a backline coming up against backline, I'm having a sleepless night before the game.
Yeah, and that's very that's unbelievable. Yeah, I wasn't expecting some of the names, but yeah, that's good. Delaney and Driscoll certainly, hard man. Right,
so combo there now. Landed back in every row.
Back end.
Did he horrible? They're good coach in the two.
And he's ever two assistants, flankers in the middle of the pit. But even like talking about, different things, high performance, this, that, and the other, like Damon Delaney, same as kind of Ty Burn, playing Candy Crush or whatever one of those games is,
on the pitch in a pair of shoes.
The lads are like, get out on the pitch, and he's barely got his socks on, and then boom, that fella was different. Right? He was incredible. Incredible to play with, and the skills on top of that. He was, for me, I think for some reason he falls a tiny bit under the cracks, or under the radar, I should say. With one of the best players in the world.
I think he's changing. It's also I think he's going to come out as he's moving 3 World Cup. He could go down as the more successful.
You talk about Nanu as a 12. That would be the kind of the boss as the best. Nanu and him, I think, are the two best. So we had a one of the greatest players in their position ever in Munster for a few years, and he still doesn't, because of the lack of success at this club. It doesn't get his shine. But players will tell you. I remember watching him train for the first time, and just the pass and knowing that he had the kind of the real life rugby stuff whenever he wanted, but then seeing his skills. He was unbelievable.
But they've reading a thing on Tony Brown, I think, when he came in and said about him that he came in and he developed a pass. He said whatever he was doing passing, the best pass we've ever seen now. It's easy, yeah. I don't know what pass I'm apparently, yeah. And he
takes one to know him, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's a funny one about him. He did train him on his thing. Yeah. Now, here's another 2 stories. I remember after we finished when we beat Africa in that game, he came up and nearly doesn't mind me saying it, not listening. Yeah. He apologized after the game how he was when he was with Ireland, because But he came over, it was COVID, lockdown, they just had a baby, couldn't meet anyone. He was living over in North Start of the Road. See, we get the version that comes in every day, and this will probably get down to your EQ side of it. You know, I think he's struggling an awful lot. Oh yeah, mentally when he was over. So we probably went into training and he was down on tour. I don't think he playing Candy Crush at home in South Africa the whole time. But like one day he wasn't really into the gym. He was a physical animal one day. And I remember, I think it was Sheena, was getting kind of more and more pissed off that he wasn't training DJ in the gym. And he goes, so he was doing the weights, whatever, but he was naturally an animal. And he was like, well, if we can bench that chat, Joe went down 160 kilo, one rep, and walked out of the gym. Like, you know, that's insane. That is.
So sorry, he apologized about how he kind of
carried him. Yeah, but I was saying not at all. He stopped. He's like, so that obviously been something that he felt in it. And, you know, after the games, things are emotions. You always going to say things that are probably, it's a unique place after a big game like that, or a win or a loss, both ends. And you know, he draws stuff on after picture. Imagine going upstairs, living in Johannesburg, Limerick, and you're COVID, you're in lockdown, you just had a child, your wife can't meet anyone. So now, playing Call of Duty all day. Now there's that lads in Limerick with Munster that are doing that anyway, but they've no COVID down there.
Well, lads, it's been an absolute pleasure today. Certainly one of our most entertaining ones today.
And told you that man always delivered.
He surely did. Andrew, I hope you enjoyed yourself well. Thank you so much for joining us, though.
Cheers, lads. Yeah, very much.
10% off, 5x glow, use that divide. For a couple of cosmetics, want the Ruck. Yeah. You start all cash. Sign up to 5x glow, lads. You want to get your life in order. That's the man.
Love it. No, that's great. Cheers, boys. Nice one. Sound. Yeah, nice one.